the best wins for a number of years.
Oh, look, absolutely. It kind of takes the shine out of it a little bit. I think everyone was in a state of euphoria after the game. I was reflecting on it a little bit today around how good of a win was it in when you try and look like it was a great win, obviously come back. There was a lot of fantastic positives around it, not trying to make a negative shine on it at all, but there was obviously a lot to still be improved on during that we should have done better during the game, and things that we didn't do well against Essendon, for example, that have carried over. Um, but it took the shine off it a little bit, unfortunately, with some of the scans and injuries, because I thought Pink had been really solid the last few weeks defensively and with disposal. And then obviously O'Sullivan's the big one. Potentially, or hopefully not a broken jaw, but potentially some type of jaw injury, which could make him miss some time. Which, we made a we always joke about us having a lot of midfielders, but he's even after less than less than 20 games, he's probably less than 30 games, he's already one of our most important players.
Yeah, saying something, Frank. Welcome to the show, mate. Now, yeah, it's probably a key injury would be Finn O'Sullivan, just because of the impact he's had in such a short amount of time. Like Jesse said, 20 games, 30 games, or whatever he's played, he seems to be growing each week, getting the tough jobs of not just running with a player, but running off him as well, creating a lot of scoring threats, doing a defensive job, just doing a team role. So this would be a big loss if, he happened to miss some time, which maybe looking like that's the case at this stage, Frank.
Yeah, well, I guess it's he's made a real mark in the first few rounds this year, really a real noticeable difference to the way we set up. I guess this is where we look to Tom Powell's of the world to try and step up and fill that breach if he ends up missing games or a large uh, sort of quantity of games. But yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what the outcome is from the scans. But he's certainly become a vital cog in our midfield and how we set up. So he will be missed.
Definitely, and yeah, not to undervalue Toby Pink as well, because at the moment we've got a few injuries to those key defensive stocks. Thread Gold, the new recruit, is probably out for the year. We've got Griffin Logue, might miss another week. Toby Pink, Will Dawson has been predominantly playing in the ruck in the VFL, so yeah, that doesn't will leave us too many options, but we'll worry about that. And fingers crossed for tomorrow, Jesse, with a few scans coming through. But like I mentioned at the start, Jesse, it's 2020 round. If it's to win a game, and trying to win a game, when Shees will kick that goal in the last to put us in front, it was the loudest I've heard a North crowd before, and it was almost deafening, Jesse.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, since we've had a
Well,
comeback
six
win?
years, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it was really, really. Look, I think you could feel it even in the third quarter when we played poorly. There were a lot of moments there where I think or including the West Coast game this year, all the games this year, even when we've played poorly, you've seen that they're things that are avoidable. They're not. I don't want to say it's a lack of skill anymore. I think our team over the last few years, there's been moments where you're like, there's a lack of personnel, there's a lack of skill. I think it's just been a lack of composure or a lack of just being able to be 100% focused at all times now. And I think even in the third, there were moments that could have gone either way. They obviously, pulled away with it, and then but even sitting at home, didn't feel out of it. Uh, I, I had only just flown back that day, so I couldn't make the game, but um, it didn't feel out. Like I didn't feel out of it at all. I thought we're a chance of winning this, and you heard the confidence from Sheasel and that talking, saying that we're a big. They were they were convinced we were going to win. Now how true that is, whatever. But um, yeah, look, it showed a different way to win. The big one for me is that it doesn't matter how you win. A win's a win, and just winning is important to a team. It builds a lot of things. You can learn how to win well. You can learn how to be more convincing for 4 quarters. But at our stage of development, a win's a win. We just need wins on the board. So to get that over the line, especially because Carlton were favourites, I look, all in all, it was a fantastic result for the club. Injuries aside, tough game next week, but yeah, look, massive for the club, and to walk away from the first 4 rounds when, realistically, people would have loved 4-0, and I'm sure after we smashed Port, people were thinking 4-0 was, achievable, and to go down against West Coast, obviously really poorly, is a massive shame. But to walk away 3-1, you can't be disappointed with that, given how we've performed the last several years.
No, definitely. Frank, is this the turning point? Jesse talked about the Harry Sheasel interview after the game, and he said that there's a belief within this group now that we can come back, which he hasn't seen before. Well, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was words to that extent. Do you believe that this could be a turning point, Frank?
Oh, look, it could be, Dean. I'd like to see a stronger body of work before I'm convinced that we've turned the corner, and probably against better opponents. But the turning point comes for everyone at some point. It doesn't matter who it is. Hawthorn people talk about the 0-5 game when they met us a few years ago and won that and got on a roll, and haven't looked back since. So somewhere there's a game where we'll look back on and go, that was probably it. I hope it was the Friday game, but I'd like to see us do it against slightly better opposition before I start to think that there's been a real improvement. We lost the corresponding game last year, I think, by 84 points. I don't think Carlton are the same team that we played last year, and I think we've probably improved a little. I guess it's how much have we improved is probably what I'm thinking.
I think we're going to find out a lot of things probably after round 6. But let's go back to and let's talk about last quarter, because that's where everything changed. A pressure rating of 226. Tell you, this just wasn't a comeback. It was a surge built on intent. The smothers, the second efforts, the repeat tackles. That's what flipped the game. George Wardlaw set the tone with some fantastic smothers. Dylan Stevens did a nice smother as well in the last quarter. Aiden Core put his, threw everything at that spoil just before the Dylan Stevens smother. LDU responded after quite probably 3 quarters in the best way possible. 6 last quarter clearances was when the game was there to be won. I mean, there was a lot of brilliant individual efforts, and I just mentioned the pressure rating. They really wanted this win, didn't they, Jesse? And that's all we can ask for at the end of the day.
You could feel it. One thing that I don't think you could have a go at us for, even in the Essendon game when we played poorly, was our pressure. I think we've been a pretty good pressure team, other than the West Coast game where we just didn't apply enough and we didn't counter how they wanted to play. We've been good tackle side this year. I don't know where we rank in tackles, but it feels like we're applying a lot more pressure. Our tackles seem good. Our tackles inside 50 seem good. But yeah, our pressure in that last quarter was absolutely immense. Like, you could go through a million examples. The Wardlaw smothers and tackles have obviously been, shown to the hilt, but there was half a dozen other people who did just as impressive things. The Caleb Daniel tackle, there were the Charlie Comden doing a tackle on a spoil, then knocking the ball out of the person who took the ball off their ground's hands. There was a million different examples of just high quality defending across the field. And look, at the end of the day, if you're going to play like that, you're going to win a lot more games of football. You just need to learn how to do that consistently. But you could tell they wanted it. They absolutely wanted it. And it meant a lot to them, as it should, because it's been something that we haven't consistently been able to do. So, look, I think we've shown this year that we can defend better. We can apply a lot more pressure. We can score better. Is it against the 4 worst teams in the comp? Who knows? We'll work that out at the end of the year. It's semi-irrelevant because you just got to build confidence in a young group. So, look, I've really enjoyed the pressure, and I think, like you said, that comes from the fact that they're really, really hungry. And I think there was a moment. I think it is in the back of their mind that they can't keep waiting for it to happen. They've got to make it happen. I'm sure that that's in the back of their mind.
Yeah, you'd have to think so. As I'm just grabbing my mic there. I think tactically as well in the coach's box, I think they had to make this move, and that was Cooper Trimbath going into the ruck. Pitney had been controlling CCJ all game, but that move steadied things a little bit. Trimbath didn't need to dominate, he just needed to neutralise. And Sully in the midfield has got a fair look. From there, the clearance game flipped, because that's where Carlton sort of play their best football when they get easy clearances. And certainly at the start of the fourth quarter, they got a couple really soft ones, probably because Pitney just tapped it to their advantage. That's why this one felt a little bit different. It wasn't chaos, it wasn't lucky, it was structured pressure, smart adjustments, and the players responding in big movement, in big moments. Frank, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely, Dean. I think I said it on the group chat. I thought Cooper Trimbath going into the middle was what didn't necessarily shift the momentum, but it stalled Carlton's momentum. And from there, we worked our way back into the game, because not only did he didn't just break even in some of those centre bounces, he jumped clear over Pitney and got the ball moving in our direction, which we hadn't seen all night. He obviously struggled at the stoppages because of the sheer weight and size difference. But I think in the centre bounce, he played a huge role in us being able to win the ball forward in those last sort of 15 minutes. So, yeah, I think that was the pivotal move, was taking Coleman Jones off and bringing Cooper Trimbath into the middle.
Well, kind of probably had to, just with how easy he was getting the clearances, unfortunately, Pitney. And we'll definitely talk about CCJ a little bit later on and what the situation brings there going forward. But let's go to the back line, because we've got to give kudos to this next bloke. You already mentioned him, Jesse, about a good chase down tackle before, and that's Caleb Daniel. 27 disposals, 495 metres gained. Disposal efficiency was 88%, 6 score involvements, and 6 intercepts as well. That's not just tidy, that's seriously influential from the half-back line, and that's the player we recruited to the football club, the player that he's been this year so far.
Oh, he's been significantly better this year than anything that he ever put out last year. Probably his last few years at the Dogs, to be honest. His defensive efforts were fantastic, and he knew that he needed to be better. I mean, that goes without saying, really. His year has been just infinitely better than last year on every single metric, probably. His champion data, his player rating is up. His tackles, for example, this year he's averaging 4 a game. Last year he was averaging 1.9. So, just little things like that, and I think, he's probably being expected to be less of the distributor. He's naturally finding a lot of the ball because that's what he does. But he's being less required to be the distributor, and more he's kind of getting involved in the chaos of play as opposed to being given. Last year I felt like they were just giving it to him because they're like, oh, he'll dispose of it well. Well, now he kind of gets involved in the run of play, and then he's able to distribute it. It helps that probably he swaps between the half forward and the half back line, and he kind of roams higher up the ground. Still takes some kick in, so that's cool, but roams a bit higher up the ground. I just think it's working a lot better for him. But that was a suburb. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be keen to see. Obviously, the coaches' votes wouldn't have come out yet. I wouldn't have thought, given that there was this game today. But I'd be really keen to see where he ends up in the coaches' votes, because while it wasn't, the best game, you could talk about, probably 4 or 5 other players for us who deserved it more. I thought there were some really critical things that he did all over the ground.
No, definitely. He had good composure throughout the night. When the pressure went up in certain situations, he didn't rush. He just picked the right options, used the ball cleanly, and helped launch those rebound chains that got that helped us throughout the 4 quarters. Another player that's gone back there this year, Frank, and that's Luke Parker. 6 intercepts, 4 scoring involvements, and one of the biggest moments of that last quarter, that crucial one-on-one win against Mitch McGovern. He not only killed the contest, he intercepted the mark. He gave up some serious height and size there. but he just read it better, hold his ground, and yeah, was able to intercept. That's experience and footy IQ all in one, isn't it, Frank? I mean, he brings so much of that to that back line. You just see it, don't you?
Yeah, and I was one that was sort of wondering whether we were hiding him at halfback because maybe he'd lost that sort of leg speed and the endurance to run through the midfield. But he's been invaluable since he's moved down halfback. I think he's just added a level of maybe not confidence, but the opposite of whatever panic is, which seemed to ensue in our back line whenever pressure came. A bit of a level head, a good user of the footy. We obviously, it's been highlighted 1,000 times. He's run off half back that hit Paul Curtis on the chest and went no higher than about 3 foot in the air. Those kind of things probably been missing off our half back line over the last couple of years. The ability to do that. So he's been a huge asset down there at half back.
Hopefully we can get a couple more years from him there as well. So
well, he wants to play another 10. The way he's talking.
Well, the way he's going, he can do that probably. So, look, it's a different age. I mean, 33 is not. It's probably the new 29, 30 now. You've probably still got 2 or 3 years left in you at that age, and he's more protected in the back line rather than going into the contest in the midfield where your body does get battered a lot. So, who knows? I was a bit worried about this one though, Jesse. Colin McKercher and Caleb Daniel lining up on the half-back flank at the start of the game, and they spent a lot of time there, but 8 intercepts, a team high and a game high 8 intercepts as well was by Colby McKercher. He's improving a lot defensively, which is good to see because I still like him out of there because his ball use is so elite and his ability to break a line as well is very damaging also. I mean, I think we've gone from 18th inside 50s this year from defensive 50 to 12th. It's still not great, but it is improving a lot. So, and he's got, he's a big part of that, isn't he?
Oh, look, he's absolutely critical for the transition. I've been adamant all of last year that I'd still love to see him get a little bit more midfield time. I'm just happy that he's getting some midfield minutes, just because it adds, a different dynamic. But I've got no issue with him being primarily half-back flank and then moving into the midfield. I think he's important for transition while Hardiman's probably out of form. There's probably, a few other bits and pieces I'd like to see us do, which unlocks him up the ground a little bit more. But for the moment, he's just critical for transition. He's just critical with it. But yeah, I'm probably in the camp that, as I've said, I like him as a mid, and I like him probably as a winger long term because I think he's dangerous ahead of the ball. We've seen him kick goals in the past with just his pace. So, and I think that sometimes he tries to get too creative in the back half, which is probably just age, to be honest. But yeah, look, he's one of my favourite players, probably after Trembath and maybe Finn O'Sullivan. The way that he's been going about it this year, McKercher's right up there for me. So yeah, I've always been a huge fan.
Well, if O'Sullivan's out for the next few weeks, he probably will get more midfield minutes.
Time, yeah.
Oh, I think he would have to, because we're probably testing our depth there. Because even in the VFL, I've been watching the first couple of rounds, and it's been the VFL listed players that have been predominantly playing there. Keast and a couple others, McPherson.
Well, you'd think that Wardlaw's minutes would increase again, so he
of course.
Probably, and because he's more of a defensive mid, he probably plays more of the Finn O'Sullivan role, albeit Finn O'Sullivan plays that role, and he's an elite disposer of the footy. But yeah, I think McKercher's the obvious one to get a bit more minutes. I don't want to give to Parker because then you change up the role that he's being asked to do this year, which he's really successful at. So I don't want to see him in there. Powell obviously gets a bit more as well, but I as I always have for the last probably half of last year, have been big on Powell playing more on the outside, because I think he's just a better player on the outside. So, I'd love McKercher to get a bit more of an extended run at it now that O'Sullivan's unfortunately going to miss weeks.
Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Wow,
allegedly. It might mean an adjustment where you bring in Hardiman into the half-back line, or maybe someone from reserve, Zach Fisher goes in the wing. and then Blum Eyes goes back on the half-back line. And, there's going to be positional adjustments, that's for sure, going forward. But fingers crossed that we can only hope that Finn O'Sullivan's okay. We talked about Cooper Trembath and how much of an influence he had in the ruck. But the Stars, Frank, they seem to step up when they had to. And how important is George Wardlaw to that midfield? He almost reminds me a little bit of Anthony Stevens, different types of players, but they seem to be the heart and soul of the team. And just how he throws his body around, he's very important spiritually to this team, I feel.
Yeah, look, he really lifts the bar in the middle defensively when he goes in there. I mean, I don't think you could help but want to replicate what he does if you're playing alongside him. His desperation. And I was saying to someone the other day, it's not just the smother, it's the fact that he smothers the ball and he's looking for the next defensive act. Whereas some people might lie there for 10, 15 seconds or lay a tackle and just admire the fact that they laid a tackle. But he seems to lay a tackle and then bounce up and try to smother it. And it's just that repeat effort that he's got in him that must be really inspirational for the guys around him. So hopefully we can keep him fit, Dean. But yeah, we certainly at stoppages around the ground look completely different when he's around.
Well, even when he did that smother, it was about a minute later. He tackled Patrick Cripps, who was about to have a snapshot goal.
Yeah.
He didn't certainly rest on his laurels. He doesn't give much away as far as easy possessions. So the only issue is, can we keep him fit? That's the only that's the only thing. Whether it's the hamstring or the head knocks, but look. So far, so good. It's only been a small sample size. Like you said, Jesse, I think his time on ground will increase. I think he had 60-odd% over the weekend. You're hoping it can get to 70-odd% in the coming weeks, and it probably will have to if, Sullivan misses time. But we'll go to our former captain here, Jesse, Jai Sinkin. I've been critical of him, particularly last week. And not just me, and I said if I had a crystal ball, I think it was last Thursday, and if that offer was there right now from Collingwood, I would have let him go, especially after the Essendon game. He did a couple really silly errors. But I think he stepped up big time last Friday night, and that's all you can ask for is a response, because the pressure would have been huge on him to deliver, I would have thought.
I think there was obviously the obvious moment in the fact that he was involved in the Sheasel goal, but I think involved in 5 of the last, in all 5 of the last goals for us. So he was just massive. I thought he was much cleaner with the ball. Well, I mean, what can you say really? There's not much to be said. I'm glad that he had this game, because there were people calling for him to be dropped. There were people saying we should have just got rid of him for a bag of chips. And so I'm glad that he had this game, because we know that he's he was a high draft pick. He is a talented player. I think all of us thought, a lot of us thought, he's worth at least one first rounder. I think he could be a great player in a different team. So I was really happy he had that game, and I'm happy that he is embracing that wing position. He just needs to tidy up his disposal when from time to time. But his ability to do, the spins, lateral movements, etc., has always been really impressive.
Well, he did that handball, which got unsold to Harry Sheasel for that goal that put us in the lead. That was a very skillful play, and he is capable of that. There's no doubt about that. He was involved in 5 of the last 7 scoring involvements. Had a team high 9 scoring involvements in 19 possessions, and only the 1 turnover for the game. We just hope we can get that more often from him in the future. And Frank, the forward line struggled for most of the game. And a fair bit had to do with maybe how Carlton's set up and how we moved the ball in patches for the first 3 quarters. But Zane Dersma is starting to take his game to a new level. I can see Jack Gunston in him now. And maybe he just needed a run of games and an opportunity, Frank, and other players to get out of his way, because, geez, he looks like a talent, doesn't he?
I thought for a moment there, Dean, you were going to say he took out Jacob Wiedering well,
it might have been the most important thing.
Well, unfortunately, you never like to see that, and Jacob Wiedering's had a history of head injury, so you hope that he's okay. But Dean, I thought my image of him or my hope for him when we drafted him is that he'd be one of those high half forwards that would get the 20, 25 disposals and kick a goal or something like that. But maybe his role is a deep forward with 8 to 10 disposals a game and 2 to 3 goals, because there's no doubt about his aerial prowess. He's a fantastic mark for a kid his size. And he's a fantastic set shot. He rarely looks like he's going to miss. So maybe that's his role, is playing alongside Nick Larkey as a smaller foil and a hit-up forward, rather than what I thought he might be when he arrived at the club. And look, I'm okay with that. If he ends up being a deep forward that kicks 2 to 3 a game, I'm more than happy.
Oh, definitely. I certainly like him in that forward 50. It seems like that's where he does his best work. He's never going to be a high possession player. I think we've tried him in every position on the ground probably in the last 12 months, but he seems to do his best work. His hands are so clean too, Jesse. Geez, he took some big marks when nothing was happening. You know, the long balls down the line, I think Larkey hit him out. But, it was 2-on-3, and he took a big mark in the goal square. I think it might have been second quarter. Geez, he's got a great set of hands, hasn't he?
Oh, his hands are very, very clean, and like Frank said, you know, he's a really good set shot. He's a good run on the run shot as well, to be honest. But look, I think all of us, you know, we saw him play a VFL game last year. We played midfield, and he kind of looked like Nate Fyfe, and we thought, well, maybe he's a midfielder. Look, I'm okay with him being, again, like Frank said, I'm okay with him being a low disposal player, as long as he's scoring goals. And that's what he's doing this year. I mean, up until today, he kicked as many as Nick Watson. You know, we're talking limited games, obviously, but as in this year, obviously. Look, I'm really happy that he's got a position in the side. I think offensively, he's doing a lot right. I think he's doing a lot off the ball as well that people have been highlighting, little blocks and stuff like that for his teammates, which is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And as he builds up his confidence, I think he'll become better defensively as well. It is an interesting conundrum in the long term what the forward line makeup it looks like. I still like the idea of 2 smalls plus Kurt, and that doesn't include Curtis. And then you've got Curtis and a Zohar or a Dersma type, and then 2 key tools. That's probably how I like it. But you know, at the end of the day, if it works, it works.
No, definitely. You mentioned a few names there. Cam Zurhaar, Paul Curtis, Jack Darling. We're all pretty quiet for 3 quarters, and they all had their moments in the last. And I guess that's what good players do, Frank. They might not be having a day. I felt like Zurhaar was having a pretty dirty day, but he still did a couple of nice things in the last quarter. Good players, they find a way to have an impact on the game, even when it doesn't go their way, don't they?
Yeah, look, he started well, Cam. I thought his radar was off a little early, but he was certainly getting involved. And then he had that huge patch where he was largely unsighted. And and I think Jack Darling was a little bit the same, but Darling had some massive defensive efforts in that last quarter where he willed himself to contests and looked like he was gassed. But he just kept going. So that was enormous. Cam obviously kicked a very important goal. But yeah, like you said, Dean, I guess sometimes you've just got to keep presenting and things can change. But I certainly felt that once the pressure shifted in that last quarter and we started to look to move the ball a bit quicker, I think it brought some of those players like Darling and Zurhaar into the game rather than what had been previously some slow ball movement. I guess with the pressure, they came alive and got us over the line.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Jack Darling thing. That was a really good pressuring act he did on Wade Dirksen to force the kick out of bounds right at the end. Did a couple of really nice things, and yeah, it's good to see from a player that's pretty highly respected within the 4 walls, I think, by the looks of it anyway. Jesse, how do you think Zach Banch went? 2 behinds, missed an easy one. 10 possessions, 3 tackles, 4 scoring moments. I think he shows a lot more than Constanti, and probably even Lockie Doveston has at this stage of this year.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I really liked his game. I thought he got
Yeah.
involved. I thought he got involved. I think he showed enough defensively, and I think offensively he showed infinitely more than Constanti had. So he's my choice small forward at the moment. Albeit I would like to be getting games in Doveston as well. And maybe it's he comes in for a Sullivan type of thing, and we rejig things. So yeah, my pick is Banch because I actually think that when he goes out there, you see the effort, and I think there's some upside there that's a bit untapped. While with Constanti, look, he had a good VFL game. He kicked some some good goals, but he just hasn't been able to kick goals at AFL level. That's the knock on him, as we all know.
No, that's a big knock on him at this stage. He kicked a nice goal in the VFL too, Jesse. So we will talk about the VFL soon, but he may be an option in the future, but I think he needs a few weeks in the VFL. Now, we probably have to go to the one negative out of the game, Frank, and that's CCJ. Where are we at with him? Completely outplayed by Pitney from the start of the first to when he came off in the last quarter. Pitney seemed to be doing whatever he wanted to him. I was happy to give him 3 weeks to prove himself, but we may have to pull the trigger earlier because that was an un-AFL-like performance on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, but what do we do, Dean? The cupboard's threadbare at the moment with Goad played limited minutes. Whether they bring in Matt Whitlock or Dawson to have a go in the ruck, I'm okay with that because I don't think you could go much worse. I think what CCJ finished with 6 hitouts to Pittenay's
It was embarrassing.
39, which was really poor. And I could live with that if he had picked up 20 disposals around the ground or something. But he just got monstered at the stoppages, gets pushed out away from the ball or under the ball, and he doesn't seem to have any impact at the centre bounce. So yeah, it's a hard argument to keep him in the side, but then I just wonder who do we bring in for him? But he's on thin ice, Dean, I think it's probably fair to say.
Now, George Wardlaw's pet possum is coming to into the chat and says, CCJ, make him stop. Zerha in the ruck. No, Noble did it. Well, David Noble did a lot of things, so maybe that's the last resort. But, Jesse, it is a concern how outplayed he was. And, some of those clearances that Pitney was getting, he was doing whatever he liked. He wasn't even competing in there. And as soon as Trembath goes in there, he gives a contest. What are your feelings on this? Does he need to come out of the team right away? Are we at that stage now where we've probably seen enough of him? We think, well, he's not up to the level. I'm going to go on a rant and probably just say that I watched Finbar Malley over the weekend, and I still can't believe that that was the choice between Finbar Malley and CCJ, and they picked CCJ. But that's Brady Rawlings. I wouldn't expect anything less, so I'm not going to go on a rant on that. But we've got CCJ at the moment. What are we going to do, Jesse?
Oh, look, that was pretty bad. That was embarrassing. He was shocking in every aspect of the game. There was nothing, no silver lining. I think he took one good clunk for the game and missed. So, yeah, I think I've said on X, I'd like to see Trembath take some of the centre bounces, not around the ground, just so because you get his leap and then he goes back to being in the forward line. Around the ground, you couldn't look if Dawson was fit and Pink isn't injured, for example. I would have liked Dawson to have done it because he's not a ruckman, but at least he'd tackle and do things. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't think CCJ is a ruckman at this stage.
I don't think he's. I don't know what he's. He didn't do anything. I don't think he did a single thing that was noteworthy. It was one of the most. He may be in the bottom 5 players in the AFL, as in listed players. And he's probably on I don't know how much money he's on. I guess we gave him an extension, so it mustn't be much now. But
he's made good money in his career. So
yeah, for a kid on a lot of talent, he's done absolutely nothing. And Yeah, that was embarrassing. I'd almost relegate him. I'd hate to see him in wear the jumper again. I think he will because Frank said, Goad's still injured and, the cupboard's pretty bare. So they may go with him again. Look, he may be better against Brisbane, less, but I doubt it.
Jesse,
I just,
I got a question for you, Jesse. If he was 5'8" instead of 6'8", what level would he be playing at?
oh, grade like E or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
he wouldn't.
EFL or something like that.
He wouldn't be playing seniors. He'd be playing like I don't know. He'd be playing reserves. And he's got no talent. It's bizarre that they signed him over Maley. Maley could be running around in the ruck doing 10 times more at the moment. So, big shame, but I guess Rawlings trying to save face a little bit for doing what he did. So it is what it is. To that comment on Zerha, I don't hate that, to be honest, just because I've got my own comments on Zerha and where he's at this year. But yeah, I don't hate it. But I'm probably leaning towards Dawson if he's fit.
Well, it sort of depends on
And Pink and
Pink, availability of Pink. Whether I think Dawson might come in and they might put him as a defender because we don't have any tall defenders left now either.
Which I'd prefer.
Oh, that's where he's
yeah.
That's where we're trying to develop his game as a key defender. But I found it strange, Jesse, they haven't played him. They've played him as a ruckman in the reserves because they got no one else. Surely you can get just a local footballer, just get him in the ruck. We had Damien Monkhurst's son do that a couple of years ago. You can just get him in a ruck because I don't know, if I'm a VFL coach, I want to develop my players to play the position they're going to play in the first team, and I don't think Will Dawson's going to be a ruckman when he comes up to the seniors.
It's a bit, yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's a little bit weird and a bit of a waste of his time and of our time. Because, unless they see him as, I didn't like it either. It's just that at the moment, I'd rather not like something than play CCJ. But, yeah, look, I thought it was a bit weird. A bit like playing... who'd they play in defense the other year? Brayton George. Like this is, it's kind of like, it's a little bit different when you've got small, like a Whitlock, where I think he's a defender, and they're playing him as a forward. That's just my feel that he's a defender. I know a lot of people think he'll be a forward. I don't have a problem with forwards and backs when they're young playing in either position because you see that happen all the time. But to have a defender playing as a ruckman is a little bit weird. I know he played ruck a little bit as a junior, so maybe they're just exploring that. But when you've got Goad and Tristan Xerri, obviously, who are both, Xerri's not old, it seems a little bit weird for mine.
Patrick Allwood has come into the chat. He's said that CCJ will almost certainly play and we need to just back him in, agree with everything, but he pulls on the jumper and we hope he does well. He can't jump, he said, and he said that he would have Trembath to all the centre bounces based on Friday night. Yeah, I mean, you can't play out there the whole game. I mean, it would still need a spare ruckman, whether it's Jack Darling or I'm not too sure, when Cooper Trembath. Is that a possibility though, Frank? Could Cooper Trembath play as a ruck? And I think he might mention we could put Whitlock in, but Whitlock was pretty quiet on the weekend. He didn't do much in the VFL.
Well, I guess the alternative is you start Coleman Jones at centre half forward and let Cooper Trembath take the ruck. And then when the ball goes forward, if it goes defensively, Cooper Trembath stays with it until there's a stoppage where the two of them can swap. Is probably the easiest solution because the other one's going to involve dropping him. And as we've said, I'm finding it hard to find a natural replacement for him. So they could try that because you certainly want Cooper Trembath to spend more time in the forward line than in the ruck. So whether he takes the centre bounces and then they switch over, that could be a thought. But we're clutching at straws a little, aren't we?
I think we're massively clutching at straws, and it's a bit of a shame that we have to talk like this at the moment, but it's just where we are because he's comprehensively beaten.
Yep.
In an otherwise a very dominant performance. I was about ready to tweet when we were losing that last quarter that the Tristan Xerri suspension has probably cost us the game, but luckily it didn't. And I'm just worried, Jesse, that if he plays, if we get close to Brisbane and we lose by 10 points and CCJ has another stinking game like that, it's almost a case of, we could have beaten a top team. And,
we only drew with them last year because of Tristan Xerri. He had like an absolute all-time game from memory. So, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
I think, though, boys, and I've said this a couple of times, I think that's what you get with Tristan Xerri. I think we have to factor in that he's going to miss a couple of weeks every year because he plays right on the edge, and that's what makes him the player that he is. And sometimes he oversteps the mark. Like he said, it was a stupid thing to do, and he's probably sitting there in the stands on Friday night at the same time you were about to tweet, Dean, going, this is probably my fault. But unfortunately, I think that's the package with him. He plays on the edge, and that's what makes him who he is.
Patrick Allwood came in, and Trembath centre bounce only. CCJ or Darling around the ground. But I don't think CCJ does enough around the ground either. So, I don't know. I wouldn't go with him. I'll figure out a way to just work something out. Whether it's Trembath or someone else. But we'll move forward. And the VFL had a good 11-point win. Braden George with 4 goals, all in the first quarter. Didn't do much after that. Jacob Costanti, I think you mentioned him, Jesse, 19 possessions, 2 goals. Charlie Spargo looking pretty good as a high half forward with 2 goals, 17 possessions. Robert Hanson, 29 touches. Zach Fisher, 28. Goad, unfortunately, on limited minutes. Will Dawson, like we mentioned, played in the ruck. Unfortunately, Hardiman and Bailey Scott were very quiet. Looks like Hardiman will need another week. But there's probably no one really knocking down the door too hard, Jesse, to come into the team. So it probably limits our options as far as selection goes this week.
Yeah, look, the obvious ones for me is if there are injuries and we need to force a change, Pink you need to find another defender for. So if Dawson's fit, that's the obvious one. And Logue, like we said at the start, shouldn't be ready yet. O'Sullivan, again, far from ideal, one of our most important players this year, but bit easier to work out what we do there. I'd like to see a Dovison back, but it's not ideal. I don't want to play anyone who's not fit. So even if O'Sullivan or Pink came back and they were all right, they were just a bit sore. I'd err on the side of, caution. Just because we've got Richmond next week, we can't lose that. We need to win that one. I'm not saying we tank games, obviously, but
Yeah, you got to have priority, don't you? Because there's a high chance that you're probably going to lose this game against the Brisbane Lions, where there's a really good chance if you've got a decent and fit enough team that you'd beat Richmond the week after. There's a big difference between the two football clubs, so we'll have to wait and see. What about yourself, Frank? I'm not too sure if you've seen any of the VFL game, but is anyone impressing you that they could come in this week?
No, I don't think so, Dean. I didn't think that they were horrible, any of them. But I didn't see... I don't see a spot for Hanson Jr. or Fisher at the moment. I don't think that's where we're lacking. Key defensive posts, maybe Dawson, but again, wasn't super impressive. And Hardiman still looked a little bit... I saw some footage of him in the rooms after the seniors one, and he looked like he was still sort of a bit proppy in the background when he walked past. I don't know if that was just me, but he might still be having some lingering issues with that ankle.
Yeah, that's what I did notice that after the game. So I'm not too sure if he's still got... problems. It doesn't look like he does when he's playing out on the field. Oh, at the end of the day, we declare him 100% fit as soon as you step over that white line. So, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, I don't. With ankle injuries, they do swell up quite often. They
Yep.
stick with you. So, yeah, he'll just have to find a little bit more form in the VFL. He wasn't horrible, like you said, Frank,
Yep.
but yeah, he was hardly noticed for the majority of the game, and the same with Bailey Scott. So, and they're probably a couple of players that you probably want doing pretty well. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Gather round this week, Jesse. This is where our season usually unravels, as it has in previous years. So it'd be nice to be competitive and maybe challenge the Lions this week.
Oh, I'd love to get within 5 goals. That would be a oh, just because they looked pretty good last week, and they're going to get Harris Andrews and McCluggage back. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, we were saying this last year though when we drew. You never know. You never know. So
No,
yeah,
that's right.
you look. Fingers crossed, no injuries. We're competitive, and we take confidence going into the next few weeks, where there are some winnable games, or at least on paper ones that we should be winning.
No, that's right. Yeah, look, we lose this week and then we beat Richmond next week, and 4-2 is probably the start we were hoping for, and it will definitely take that. So we'll have to wait and see. Frank, you're heading down to gather around this year. Are you excited? Do you think we can challenge?
Look, I'm not going there, Dean, thinking that we're going to win. If it did, I might not come back. I might have a short stay at the Royal Adelaide Hospital if we were to pull this one off. But yeah, look, I'm going more for the experience, and obviously, I've heard so many good things about the whole event. Really looking forward to it. Like Jesse said, I think an honourable loss would I'd be happy with that. 4 or 5 goals, be competitive. I think that's probably about as far as we're going to get. I hope I'm completely wrong, but yeah, it would take a big shift in form, I think, for us to be able to topple them.
Well, Jesse, I think if we played Brisbane round 2 and West
Mm.
Coast over the weekend, um, it might have been a different story because West Coast were horrible. The emotion has certainly gone out of their season, and they copped a 21-goal shellacking. If we played them over the weekend, we probably would have beaten them. And if we played Brisbane in round 2, we might have been a chance against them because they had a number of injuries, suspensions, and so forth.
Yeah,
So
the draw
it's
is
just
rigged.
timing sometimes.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is, mate.
Not much you can do about it, is
No,
there? But did you want to add anything else towards the end there, Jesse, before I let you go?
no, not really, mate. I think it's been fans have been really, really demanding of the team this year, which is really good to see, especially on social media. We've been, people have been hard on the players when they need to be hard on the players. The West Coast game was not acceptable. I think the players got ahead of themselves, and in large parts of the Essendon game weren't ideal. But I think we've seen in patches more consistent patches than we have in the past what we can do, and I like that. I like the team mix a lot more. Just how they've got the makeup of the team. It just looks like a lot more of what a team should look like, in my opinion. So, look, a lot of positives coming into this, Brisbane Lions game. I had a look at the weather. I think last year it was like 40 degrees, wasn't it, against
It's
Gold
pretty
Coast?
hot.
Yeah. So this year I think it's like 19 and cloudy. So that sounds like the Hobart conditions we had when we drew against them last year. Brisbane don't like cold weather. So maybe they're due for another choke. You never know. Someone has to play on Ashcroft though. Probably Wardlaw.
Yeah, or maybe Powell. You might have, or Fino Sullivan. Who knows? I mean,
Well,
that's an interesting question. I'm going to preview the game, obviously, as later in the week.
hmm.
But do you think that if Fino Sullivan is fit, who do you think you'd go to? Would it be Neil or maybe the Ashcroft?
I'd say McCluggage if he plays. But
Yeah.
I know he's coming back from injury. But McCluggage is probably their most damaging. Neil, I think you can take out of the game, and they're still explosive. I'd probably go Ashcroft after Neil, and Dunkley probably goes to Sheasel, or he probably goes to LDU actually.
Yeah, might go to LDU. He's probably more damaging player, especially what we've seen last week. But yeah, very good player. Frank, did you want to add anything else before I let you go? Jesse's calling us. We're a chance to win in 19-degree weather. You may never know, Frank. You might be going at the right time.
As I said, I look forward to my stay at the Royal Adelaide Hospital if we're able to pull this one off. But I will say, Dino, it was nice to see angry Clarko just for a little snapshot there. It's something I think has been really lacking from his approach. And it was, at the time, it probably I didn't really care too much for it or for anything because I didn't think we were going to win. But it was, in hindsight, nice to see him actually get agitated with something that went wrong. And it's a side of him we haven't seen for a long time. So maybe a little momentum shift there as well in his thinking.
Well, I don't think he's afraid anymore to let players know, whereas probably with the drama that was going on there, he's probably a bit worried that his reputation for being too hard and going hard at players was, getting the best of him. I'm not too sure.
Yep.
But, look, it was fair enough. It was warranted. Even Colin McKercher said that. He let the team down in a stoppage that caused a goal. So, yeah, that's all you can do. And, yeah, who knows? He might be turning the corner as well. But a big thanks to you guys for jumping on and breaking it all down. Always good to get different perspectives and plenty for North fans to be excited about if this is the direction this group is heading. So thank you very much for coming on, Jesse.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks so much, Frank.
Thank you, Dean.
And I'll be back on Thursday to preview the game coming up against the Lions. So let's hope the Kangaroos can build on this and keep the momentum rolling. Until then, thanks for listening to the #Kangaroos podcast. Bye for now and go